you know about James Washington? He'll be part of the solution, not the problem. Good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. Comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into hockey and or baseball. I also offer up daily shots of Penguins and Pirates right where you found this. I covered the Steelers' final formal day of training camp yesterday at Heinz Field. Rained pretty much the whole time. Not a lot of fans. I don't blame them. And on the day, the most newsworthy thing was that Chase Claypool was in attendance. Didn't participate, of course, after his apparent ankle injury the previous day. But he wasn't in a boot or a cast or crutches or anything like that. He was walking around just fine. So that was the news element. Not coincidentally, more passes were thrown to Washington than the norm. Also not coincidentally, Washington really performed, was the best player on either side of the football through this session. In one case, went up for a high point ball from his old buddy Mason Rudolph at the right back end of the end zone, over a defender and forward over the defender's head to bring the ball in. The kind of stuff that when Rudolph was drafted that you'll recall everyone was excited about because he was doing this in preseason games. He's still a very good NFL wide receiver. And believe you me, Mike Tomlin, Kevin Colbert, Art Rooney, all concerned, have absolutely zero intention of sharing him with another team the remainder of the season. A couple of weeks ago, of course, a national report, which very, very clearly originated with Washington's agent, made known that Washington had discussed the possibility of being traded. To which the next day, Tomlin was like, he's never brought that up to me, and a lot of people took that as a denial that the thing had ever happened, when in fact, why would Washington approach the head coach about something like that? Washington himself, essentially, yesterday, confirmed that this happened by answering simply that these were, quote, private conversations, end quote, whenever the subject came up. Well, I mean, why wouldn't you just say, no, man, no, of course not. So they did happen. Washington further confirmed that he does, in fact, hope to be on the field more often than the 44% of offensive snaps in which he participated in 2020.
It's been talked about. But as far as, like I said earlier, I'm just trying to do what I can. I just want to show people that I can be available and, make the plays that you want me to make and, just do what I need to do.
Virtually in the same breath, Washington kind of went out of his way to make it clear that he's got no problem with the Steelers or Pittsburgh or anything to that effect. Just wants to play.
But as far as me being happy in Pittsburgh, I love to hear, who wouldn't be happy playing, football as their job. So, I come to work every day with a smile on my face. I'm eager to be here with my guys, joking around, laugh around, and play the sport that I love and, continue playing the sport that I love and, just enjoying life.
This portion of Daily Shot of Steelers is brought to you by Point Park University. Choose from nearly 100 career-focused programs leading to bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees. Choose also how and where you'd prefer to absorb them, whether it's at Point Park's gorgeous downtown Pittsburgh campus, whether it's online, or possibly a flexible hybrid format. Learn more at pointpark.edu. Hey, I don't blame him, really. You're not going to be young forever, and you're not going to be young at all for very long in the National Football League, certainly not at a position like wide receiver. Every year that goes by, you're a little older and you're a little slower. Washington's got every right, as do all players in all team settings, in all sports, to look out for himself as much as he looks out for the collective. That's just fair. But he's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. There's no chance of that. If you're the Steelers, why would you trade him? What are you going to get offered back that's going to make you want to trade him? Third-round pick, second-round pick, nobody's going to give that up. Nobody's going to give that up for a player who you might think would be a number 2 receiver on another team, but you don't know that because he hasn't done that and he hasn't been that. You're not going to get that. Not even Colbert, with his seemingly magic touch, could pull that off. And I can promise you that the Steelers have shared this same stance with the player, with his agent, and told him, listen, we understand, we respect where you're coming from, we appreciate your competitiveness. But we also want you to look at who these other wide receivers are and ask, which one of these guys are you better than? And if you are, feel free to display that. Feel free to show that. If you do, believe you me, we will react accordingly. Last year, when Deontay Johnson had his drop mania there for a while, particularly the game up in Orchard Park, it was Washington who was called upon by the team, and specifically by Ben Roethlisberger, to settle things down a little bit. Now, Washington's had his own issues with drops, but in this moment, he didn't. Remember those couple of big catches he made late in the game that sealed it? And Ben said, he's the guy that I would trust. And he was pumping the ball to Washington, and Washington had guys all over him, draped all over him, and he came away with it. Outperform them and stay on the field. This is the circumstance that you're in. Maybe Washington had been under the impression, as a lot of us were, that there was no chance Juju was coming back. Juju Smith-Schuster, of course, getting the 1-year, $8 million, I guess you could call it a bridge deal. At least that's what it is in his head, until he can become a free agent and get all the zillions and zillions of dollars that he thinks are coming his way. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen this year. So James came back to the same situation. Maybe there's a halfway. There's a place where Washington and Tomlin, and to an extent Matt Canada, can get together and say, listen, what do we got to do to get this guy on the field more often? It might be 4 receiver sets. It also can be receiver rotations, which the Steelers do, I think, a lot more than most people will realize. But from the Steelers standpoint, it's status quo, man. You have yourself a 4th receiver, and if somebody does get hurt, and let's not forget the scare that everyone just had with Claypool, what's the second thing that crosses your mind? Oh, it's okay. James Washington's here. This situation's just going to take care of itself. You watch. It's just going to manage itself. And it'll be for the better. I think for the team, maybe even for the player. When we come back, just one question. Welcome back. It's time for Just One Question. That's always brought to you by the personal injury law firm of Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly, and George, LGKG. They represent people who've been hurt in car accidents, who need help with workers' comp, who filed medical malpractice claims. The attorneys at LGKG have been designated super lawyers for over 15 years. Super lawyer designation goes to the top 5% of all attorneys in Pennsylvania. Learn more at lgkg.com. Today's question comes from Cole, who asks, do you think the Steelers are being greatly underrated by the media? I saw in one place that they're given a 12% chance to win the division, a 33% chance to make the playoffs. Also, do you think that Mike Tomlin is telling the guys about this? Well, I sure hope not. I mean, one thing that Tomlin believes in very, very firmly is that motivation's got to come from within. The next time I hear him saying something like, the doubters this and so said this, his claim constantly is that he and everyone else associated with the Steelers should always tune out the noise. He actually fears the positive noise way more than the negative, though, if you want to know. And that much he does acknowledge. He hates when anyone thinks that the Steelers are favored or that certain players are so great and infallible and everything else here. That's when he worries about whether it's the individual or the collective having the proper motivation and mindset and everything else here. To your original question, do I think the Steelers are being greatly underrated by the media? My honest answer with you is I really don't know if they are or not. It's not something that I pay attention to. I'm not saying this from the standpoint that Tomlin does. Tomlin's saying it as if he has to block it out. I'm saying it as if I just don't have time. I really don't read a whole lot that's written about the teams that I cover, in particular, whether that's Steelers, Penguins, or Pirates, that's written by people who don't cover them. If that sounds like a shot or a dig, so be it. That doesn't mean that there isn't excellent work done by people who aren't around these teams on a regular basis. It just literally means what I said, which is that I don't have time to take it in. I've been made aware by people like yourself, well, this outlet said this and that outlet said that. I don't know which one you're referring to that would have made the 12% chance of winning the division prediction. But as I've noted in the past, one great way to get people's attention if you're in national football media is to say or write something about the Steelers, because the fan base is so broad, so widespread, and so passionate that you're guaranteed to get a reaction. And that's what your bosses want. They want you to get a reaction. Try the same thing with the Arizona Cardinals and see where it gets you. Something super controversial, hot take about the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray is ... and you'll get crickets. You'll get nothing. You won't get page views. You won't get listens. You won't get anything. And yet you'll say something about the Steelers or about Ben Roethlisberger, and it's big feedback, and you look like, hey, I really have my pulse on the finger. Or wait, it's the finger on the pulse. This is a great place to end this show. I appreciate the question, Cole. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. We'll do another one of these tomorrow in which I'll try to be a little more coherent.